Hola, buenas noches, tardes, parecen noches, pero son días, tardes. Gracias por acompañarnos, gracias por venir a esta charla, este conversatorio de producción con Melanie Combs, una productora muy importante, muy valiente, trabajos de animación que llevan mucho trabajo, mucho esfuerzo. Espero disfruten mucho esta plática con Melanie Combs, que es pues una ganadora del Oscar y es una productora muy sagaz para llegar a donde está. Y pues quiero recibir a Melanie con un gran aplauso, por favor, porque nos regaló un tiempo. Muchas gracias, Melanie, por tu tiempo. Here we go.
Hola. Lo siento, no hablo español. It's very embarrassing for me. I'm so sorry, but they tell me there's translation. Thank you. It's a great honor to be here at this festival. I'd like to thank everyone who invited me. I'd like to acknowledge Raul, who was such an important part of this festival. Without further ado, what I'm attempting to do here is to talk about the role of a producer. So I've been a producer for 25 years, and I've spent almost all of that time telling people what I think a producer is. So let's see what I've come up with. Can you put my presentation? Yeah. So that's actually not my Oscar, that's Guillermo's Oscar. Okay, now I'm meant to click through here. There we go. There we go. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what I'm going to talk about over the next hour. I'm going to try not to talk too fast, but what I'm going to talk about is who I am and what I've done, and therefore theoretically what I know. And then I'm going to imagine who you are and what you want to know. You may be new to the film business or not. You're probably impatient, because I know I am, and you want to have success, and you probably think I have success, and some days I do and some days I don't. And I'm going to talk about what exactly a producer is, and of course the answer is complicated and varied, but we're going to go through that. I'm going to talk about what my touchstones or guiding principles are, and then I'm going to talk, and probably by this stage they'll start going, you've gone on for too long, so we're going to quickly go through what a producer does at the different stages of a project. This is a picture of me and my sister. I was 7. This was a fancy dress competition. So these are all my credits as a producer. So you can see I'm not American, I'm Australian, in case you can't pick up the twang in my accent. It's funny hearing my voice so loud. So I started in 1998 with a short-funded, government-funded short film that won the equivalent of the Australian Oscars. These are all my credits since. So you can see there's 2 Oscar winners in there. One back in 2004, which was for Harvey Crumpet, which was a stop-motion animation written and directed by Adam Elliott. And he and I then went on to make Mary and Max. You can see it took some time. And then I moved to London after Mary and Max. And then I met my husband, who is a Danish stop-motion animator, and he convinced me that we should go to Portland, Oregon. And so now I'm working there. And Portland, Oregon, for those of you who are interested in stop-motion animation, is kind of the Hollywood of stop-motion, funnily enough. So that's why we're in Portland. And candidly, I prefer Portland to LA, so it's good. So I've been working at a company called Shadow Machine, which is an incredible company that's been around for 25 years and never not been in production. Because you might think, why would I go and work for another company? And the answer is, financing projects is really difficult, and to be able to work on projects and bring my experience and have it valued, including a regular paycheck, which most producers don't get, has been a terrific experience. And obviously, when I started working there on the Shivering Truth series, the producer, Alex Bulkley, had his eye on me to help with Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which obviously is very successful. And one of the things I'm most proud of about the production was the excellent collaboration we had here with Tala del Chucho. So Estrella, I'm going to butcher everyone's names, I'm so sorry. Estrella Aranzia, did I get it even close to right? You know who I'm talking about. And Angelica Lares, who is at Tala del Chucho. Those two women were pivotal to the success of the segments that we filmed down here in Guadalajara, and that was a fantastic collaboration. So what are my touchstones? So I'm going to tell you what they are, and then as we go through the different stages, they'll probably start to make more sense. So principles, so create them, live by them, and change them as needed. It's a really important thing to be able to, I think producing is one of the most ethically challenging things you can do. Every time you make a decision about hiring someone or firing someone or whatever you're purchasing, you're making a series of ethical decisions. And I think it's really important to identify what they are and stick to them as much as you can, or at least continue to aspire to them. One of the other things is, no matter how confident I am that I've got it all under control, I always say, how can I help? Because we are all our own worst enemy. My joke is that my job is to help everyone get out of their own bloody way, including me. Right? It's always, any problem you have, it's always about what you don't know, even if you think you know everything, and trust me, I think I know everything, right? So you need to constantly ask yourself, you know, what don't I know here? Here's another important one. If you don't have decision-making power, if you don't own it, then you can't be held responsible for it. And that's a really important thing to also share with crew members. You can't hold people responsible if they don't have power to make decisions. That's what the Americans call gaslighting, yeah? But it's easy to do when you're in a production role, and it's really important to kind of really outline the beginning and ending of everyone's level of responsibility. Because fundamentally, at the end of the day, as producer, everything's your fault. So you need to be clear about that. Follow your dream. You know, here I am, I'm from Australia. Who the hell thought this could happen? But also, know your dream can change, and when it changes, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not that you failed or sold out or whatever. This was probably just for me, stop talking. Be undeniable, and I'll explain more about this later, but it's about making sure that there's no way anyone can say no to you. So you have to do your own homework. You have to analyse and look at your project and see where its weaknesses are, and make sure you address them with clear eyes, that you're not fantasising, yeah? That you be very realistic. Oh, this is a sad one. This is always a sad one. No one is waiting to discover you, all right? The time when Hollywood or wherever wanted new talent, I think the doors closed about 1969, which was when I was born. And trust me, no one wants new talent. Absolutely not. Anyone who's told you that is a big liar, right? This is why you discover you. You decide that you have what it takes. You work hard and you make yourself undeniable, and that's how you get attention. No one, you know, like, especially I've, you know, spent a little bit of time with Guillermo, and people kind of flock around him as if he touches them and then their life will change and they'll go to the Oscars and be driven around in a limousine. And it just isn't like that, right? Because actually the most valuable people in your career are your peers, not people above you. And this fantasy that someone can pluck you out and make you a star is just not real. And then I'm going to share with you my secret weapon in team management, which I've only just discovered, so I'm quite a zealot, like a new religious convert to psychological safety. So they're the things that I think are important. And one of the things I also want to say is that producing is very individual, and so other opinions are available, okay? This is my opinion of how a producer should be. Okay, So what is a producer, right? There are all these different kinds of producers, and maybe in Mexico there are even more or less. But in the international English-speaking industry, there are executive producer. So what does an executive producer do? They help finance the film or TV show, right? They're pivotal in getting the money. So sometimes you're like, hang on, Kate Blanchett had an executive producer credit on that film. How did that happen? And it's because her name being attached to the film brings the money. That's what an executive producer is. There's something about the money. What is a co-executive producer? It's an executive producer who didn't quite do enough to get an executive producer credit, right? So they're co, but they're obviously important enough that people have decided to share the producer credit with you. The producer, straight, which is the credit you want, right, is the person who raised the money, who owns the copyright, and is usually the physical producer. So they are there where the film is being made. They are the person who hires the line producer, but is the most involved with all the key creatives. They are the person who sees, who creates the moment of conception and is there for the moment of presentation to the world, the confirmation, yes. So that's the producer. I've put in some links here so you can maybe jot them down or take a photograph of the screen. In the UK, they have a credit called supervising or senior producer, and I kind of guess that's what I was on Pinocchio. And that means kind of really important line producer. Co-producer is like producer, they share the job, but again, not quite there, or for some reason, it's like in my case, I started as supervising producer, and then everyone was like, yeah, you worked really hard, you can have a co-producer credit. So it's very good. The other difference is if it's an international co-production, then the co-producer is genuinely the physical producer in that territory. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Associate producer. Now, if someone comes up to you and says, I was the associate producer on Pinocchio, it is totally legitimate to say, yes, darling, what did you do? Because there is, associate producer is a credit you give to someone because whatever, right? It doesn't have any specific jobs at all. And like, this is all, you can see this is all kind of loose, right? But associate producer, it's genuinely, it's not rude, it's genuinely legitimate to say, so what did you do? That's cool, okay? And then these are the above the line, so the sort of talent producers, and then you have the below the line people who have the word producer in their title, and the unit production manager and the line producer is very like the supervising producer. So that is the person who is like a mama, right? Who is going where, who is doing what, who is blah, 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 who's organising who, has everyone got their lunch, stop fighting, blah, 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 all the things, right? And they are the below the line credits. Now you think, oh, well, I would want to be above the line, but I can tell you sometimes it's nice to be below the line because then you get a weekly salary. And a weekly salary is very nice. Especially if you're old like me and have been independent producer for many, many years. It's like, now I'm like, oh yes, please put money in my bank account every week. That's lovely. Okay, so now I'm gonna go into, and I've got a bit jumbled with my things, but I want to talk to you about this because this is one of the kind of things that I've recently discovered and I think is phenomenal and incredibly important in any kind of teamwork. So there's a professor at Harvard University and her name is Amy Edmondson, and I really strongly recommend that you check out her work. So psychological safety, which sounds like human resources bullshit, I know, okay, I know that, right? But this, when I discovered this, I was like, hallelujah. Because for an Australian working in America, I had to find a way to talk about work culture in a different way, and in a way that was legitimate in a corporate environment. Because often in the US, there's no universal health insurance. there's the relationship between the employee and the employer is really unequal, right? And I come from a country, Australia, where to hate your boss is your birthright, all right? That's normal. If you say, I love my boss, I love my job, everyone's like, ooh, what's wrong with you? Crazy, right? So I come to America and I have these different ideas about how, you know, openness, transparency, you know, all these things, and everyone was like, oh, she's a hippie. And I had to go, no, it's, this is actually the most efficient way to make films. Like, I come from low budget, right? Being nice to people, right, which is, you could just rename this, that, right? Being nice to people is actually the cheapest way to get the best out of them, right? And like, that's the vulgar version. It's also more enjoyable because everybody loves you, right? And in America, it's like, it's hilarious. Like in Australia, everyone's like, oh yeah, she's all right. Whereas in America, they like send me little notes, oh, you are the best, and, you know, appreciate you, and all of that. I'm like, okay, it's very nice, but it's very unusual. But going back to this psychological safety was a way for me, because Google use this now, right? Is big in corporate world, and it was used in business, in hospitals, so literally to help people save lives, right? And it is a system of team management that I'm just going to briefly talk you through, and I really recommend that you check out these links, because it is a phenomenal way to talk about how we work together. And during COVID, right, you know, we were at one point, and I don't know if this is something to be proud of or embarrassed about, but we were Netflix's only film in America, in the Americas, still filming, right? We stopped filming for 13 weeks, but that was it, right? So we were able to get through all of that. And as you can remember, it was incredibly disorienting and terrifying for everybody. No one knew what the hell was going on. And having a tool like psychological safety to talk about when people were losing their minds is really important. So, what's psychological safety? Psychological safety is a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes, and that a team is a safe place for interpersonal risk-taking. I know that culturally this can be very difficult, right? In different cultures, there's a different way, right? And in America, this is very unusual to say that we are creating a safe place. So how do you do it? Because you can't just go, feel safe, right? Because guess what? It doesn't work. You have to actually make it feel safe. So how do you do that? So you have dependability, right? You rely on each other. You have an approach to problem solving that's about mutual respect. So everyone who comes to work on the project is a professional. Everyone who comes to the project wants to do their best, right? Of course, it's human nature. So when we have a problem, right, because we're none of us perfect and problems happen, and particularly in the kind of producing I'm doing right now, stop motion animation, problems happen all the time, right, and are completely unpredictable, right? What we do is we have an approach like, when we have a problem, hello, what's the emergency, right? Call the fire brigade, right? Come, solve the problem. Get everyone focused on problem solving. Don't create a second problem. Whose fault is it? Not interested in that one, usually, right? If it's something I think might happen again, we might do a conversation about where communication broke down, right? But whose fault it is, I don't give a shit. Excuse my Australian. But you know, like, it's not that the energy that you spend trying to find out who to blame is wasted energy, right? You have an idea that every single person knows who they rely on, and they have this sense of mutual respect. So you can rely on each other. And if you make a mistake, it's acknowledged. I interview every crew member and I say, I make mistakes. You will make mistakes. The most important thing is to admit it as soon as possible so we can move on, okay? So you create that sense that as a leader, you are also prone to mistakes and vulnerable and those things. 3, is structure and clarity, okay? Do you know what you are doing? Where does your job begin and end? Who do you report to? Who reports to you? You have a very clear sense of how the hierarchy works. Film and television production works best when there is a clear delineation of who does what and reports to whom, okay? Then you also have fairness and transparency. Now, I am quite the radical. Once one of my colleagues in America described me as a cross between Bernie Sanders and Mary Poppins, and I felt very seen, okay? Yeah, that's me. So I also have a pay scale and a publish, right? Not how much dollars, but everyone at level B, level 9 is this person and this person and this person. Everyone at level 8 is this person, this person. And everyone doing the same work at the same skill level is paid the same amount of money. So when people want to negotiate, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, darling, I can't negotiate. I have this system, if you want the job, this is the pay. And it doesn't mean that people can't move up in the pay scale. But what this does, why do I do this, right? It's because, particularly for artists, right? They're like, oh, I'm not really good at negotiator. Also, particularly women, ladies, we're not very good at asking for what we deserve. So this just cuts all of that out, right? And creative people get very insecure when they're talking about money. In fact, most people do. Most conversations about money have got nothing to do with money. They've got to do with childhood trauma. They've got to do with, like all sorts of things. They're not actually about money. And people can get really hooked up into that. So having a system which is transparent and clear is a really great thing. Now, I recognise that I'm in a particular position of privilege because I'm, A, in a powerful position, and B, working in stop motion animation, which is literally the smallest microcosm of the industry, So I'm in a position where I can set up new systems. But I think that whatever you can do to create structure and clarity for all of the people working with you, for your employees, is really valuable, and it will help them feel safe. Number 4 is meaning, and that's a totally personal thing. It's like, why does anyone working on the team want to come? And like with Pinocchio, obviously, for some people it was like, I want to work on a Guillermo del Toro film. For other people it was like, I really love stop motion. For other people it was, I want a job. I don't care what that is, but it's the thing that makes you have a meaningful connection to the workplace. And then number 5 is impact, that everyone working in the place feels seen and heard. This does not mean that everyone has an opinion about everything. I mean, they can have an opinion. It doesn't mean that it's not a free-for-all, you know what I mean? But it means that everyone has a voice, that no one feels that everyone feels that if they have something to contribute, and again, in the right place at the right time, within the structure that we have, that there's a safety that I can say something and it won't be punished. Yeah? And particularly, I had never worked in a country like America where people were literally, they would come to me and say, oh, I don't want there to be any repercussions. I was like, what? Okay. So this way, with psychological safety, and when you go to this website, you'll see there's a little chart with this. It's printed all over our studio, right? Because what it means is people can talk when they have conflict or issues. They can talk about, is this a psychologically safe way to do this? And, we re-emphasize it, and it helps us. I fail sometimes, but when I have this as what I'm aiming for, it makes me feel stronger, and it gives people an opportunity to feel safe about complaining, It's taken me literally, I've worked at Shadow Machine for 6 years now, and just this last week I sent out a survey, because we're going through big changes, because obviously the success of Pinocchio means we're doing lots of different things, and I think a lot of people in the studio were feeling like, what's going on? And I don't want to feel overlooked. So I sent out a survey saying, what else can you do that I don't know about, and all this sort of thing. And then some people were like, oh, can I talk to you in person? And I was like, absolutely, come find me. And it's taken me 6 years for them to trust me, that they can come and talk to me and tell me bad things or things they don't like, and that I won't overreact, that I won't punish anyone, that I won't punish them, that they won't lose their job, you know. So it's something you have to build, this trust. But I promise you, this thing, psychological safety, has transformed the way I work, because I used to do it just because I'm me and the way I like to run things, but having an articulated, you know, corporately validated system has been incredibly beneficial. So this is my gift to you, if I have a gift for you today. Okay, I wanted to just step back. I probably should have said this before, but I rewrote my presentation between. But I just wanted to talk to you about this idea of principles and where it comes from for me. And where it comes from for me is a quote from Vincent van Gogh, who wrote to his brother on the 22nd of October in 1882. And I just wanted to share it with you so you can see why I think having these principles and carrying them with you is important. So Vincent said, "What is drawing? Art, movie making. How does one come to it? It's working through an invisible iron wall that seems to stand between what one feels and what one can do." This is about, I'm just interrupting myself, which is hilarious. Anyway, what I wanted to say was principles help the unlikely become possible, okay? Any film and TV production is as close to impossible without being impossible, all right? So it's extraordinarily unlikely that it's going to all work out perfectly, all right? So how do you do that? So back to Vincent. So there's an iron wall that seems to stand between what one feels and what one can do. So how is one to get through that wall, since pounding at it is of no use? In his opinion, one has to undermine that wall, filing through it steadily and patiently. And there you are. How can one continue such work assiduously without being distracted or diverted, unless one reflects and orders one's life according to principles? And as it is with art, so it is with many other things. And great things are not something accidental. They must be distinctly willed. And so if you ask me what I think a producer really does, I think that a producer distinctly wills things into being. Yeah? So, thank you, Vincent, from all those years ago. So the idea that when I fail and mess up, I can think, well, at least I was trying to do it according to my principles. At least I can have that comfort, because candidly, to be a producer is to experience failure most of the time, you know. And so having this foundation and these principles to fall back on, it gives you solace in the hard times of rejection. I think the only people who get rejected more are probably actors, right? Is it pretty, you know. And also, if financial security is important to your emotional well-being, be a below-the-line producing person. Don't be above-the-line producing person, would be my advice. Okay, so let me grab a bit of water. So production development, creative relationships, boundaries, copyright, networking. How do you find projects if you're a producer, if you're not a creator yourself? How do you spot talent? And you've already succeeded because you're here at the film festival, okay? You meet people, right? What kind of projects should you work on? You should work on projects of people who interest you, okay? I know this sounds ridiculously reductive, but the great dame producer I learnt from said to me, "Oh, darling, I never read the script until I've met them." Oh, God, no, right? And that was such a valuable thing for me. So what I used to do when I was actively working as a creative producer before I came to America is I would meet just about anyone for a cup of coffee, right? So, because then I get to see if I think you're interesting. Because if I think you're fascinating, then I'm pretty much I'm gonna bring that to your script. Because candidly, most first drafts and synopses are terrible. You know, they're like, bleh, first version of the idea. But if I've met you and I think, oh, that's an interesting, oh, that one's got a little spark. What's going on there? I bet that's, ooh, you know? Like, I've got to kind of be intrigued. So I think that that's an important thing. And you just keep searching. Don't go with the first person who comes up and says, I need a producer, right? Be a little bit, value your own self and your work. How do you network and create your reputation or your brand? Again, I think having the principles really helps, that people know that you are someone who has a overarching philosophy about your work. And also, you know, go to the opening of an envelope, all right? Go to every single networking event that you can until people walk in and go, oh, there's Melanie Coombs again, better get the red wine out, you know, whatever. How big do you make your budget, right? This is often a question. People say, it's particularly with stop motion animation, which is notoriously complicated. People say to me, so I went away and I costed it all out, and my 20-minute short film is going to cost $750,000 US. I'm like, you know, it probably should, right? But you can't raise that kind of money for a short film. So what you need to do first is think about, who is my audience? Where is a project like this currently in front of an audience, and how is it making money? How much money is it making? My budget should be something around that. So if it's a TV show and you know, TV shows, they get money from the broadcaster, and maybe it's a co-production, so they get a little bit of money out of, you know, Mexico, and a bit of money here and there, and blah, blah, blah. But look, don't reinvent the wheel, okay? I have the story that is the exception that proves the rule, okay, which is Harvey Crumpet, right? When I made Harvey Crumpet, I saw, and I did this a little bit, but I was too stupid and too naive. So I was like, Wallace and Gromit, Wrong Trousers, right? They're 20-minute films. It's obviously a format. I'm just going to go for it. What an idiot. Anyway, because I'm also stubborn like a mule, right, I managed to get that film financed. But what I didn't realise was that Aardman had a relationship with the BBC in the UK where the TV network would pay 100% of the cost, okay? Well, that doesn't happen in Australia, right? That doesn't happen almost anywhere else in the world, and sadly, it doesn't happen in the UK anymore, all right? So it was a moment in time, and it was a particular way to raise money. And as I say, because I'm as stubborn as a mule, somehow or other we managed to make Harvey Crumpet, and then, you know, it was very, very successful, and won the Oscar, which was like being struck by lightning, candidly. But I suffered greatly. It was a massive struggle. So learn from my mistake. Make sure you look at projects that have similar kind of scope and scale to what you want to do, and find out how much that cost. And then you will find the way to make the film for the money that you have. You'll have interns. If you ever ask people to work for nothing or close to nothing, have a written agreement with them. This is what you're getting out of it. You're investing in your career. You are, you know, learning these skills and blah, blah, blah. I will give you that opportunity. In return, you will also do these things for me, okay? So make sure, and this isn't about unionisation or anything like that. This is just about, again, psychological safety, right? This is, again, about making sure you have an agreement, right? Because the last thing you want is an unhappy intern who then goes around and goes, bloody hell, I went and worked for Melanie Coombs and I thought I was going to learn all this stuff and I just ended up photocopying scripts, you know? You've seen this happen, yeah? So if you have an agreement where you've, just an email, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Maybe not a WhatsApp or a chat or, you know, anyway, but maybe an email that just says, hello, so-and-so, you have agreed to come and work on this short film for this number of weeks. We both acknowledge that you will not receive financial payment, However, you will receive the following things. You'll receive a credit on the film. You will receive training on the job. You will receive blah, blah, blah. And then make sure you give them what you've said. Yeah? Because you cannot, if you lie to people, you will get found out, right? And your reputation will be hurt, right? You need to be, remember I said ethical all the time. Have your principles, stand by them. So, here's another one of my favorites. Copyright. Who should own the copyright? Okay? The producer should own the copyright. Now, there are two reasons. One, it is the industry norm. Everywhere you go in the whole world, everyone wants one person or one entity to own and control the copyright, so that then that copyright can be sold and moved on, and all the legal chain of title, all the rights are together in one nice, neat bundle, right? They don't want to have the director also, right? They want all in one person or one entity, one company, right? The second reason, and this is the more important, and particularly earlier on in your career, you'll have the director going, oh, it's my idea. You could sack me from my project. And the answer is, yeah, that's true. That's true, right? But that is how much you have to trust me. Yeah? For me, that C in the circle, that is trust, right? And if a director wants me, I know how hard I work. I got the credits to prove it, you know? So if you want to work with me, you have to give me the copyright. We can do a deal. I promise you, any prize money you win for directing, you get 100%. Any prize the film wins, we go 50-50. You know, I give them all of that, any financial side, give it away, give it away, give it away. But no, I own the copyright, right? And you say, but Melanie, why? You don't want to share this, right? I had a director, when a film didn't do so good, have a mental breakdown, turn on me. If I had not had 100% of the rights, it could have destroyed the release of the film. You don't know what this. Learn from me. Don't do it yourself, all right? I promise you, who should own the copyright? Producers should own the copyright, okay? It's really difficult because people get scared that you're trying to take something from them. You're not taking something from them. You are creating a strong legal bundle that can then be moved along. You know, the sales can go to this and this and this. And that director or writer is not our producer. That's not their skill area. Just like I don't go on the set and start telling the actors what to do, the director should not come into the production area and start telling us what to do. Yeah, it's very important. And I know it's a difficult conversation to have, but once you say, you can have all the prize money, you can have all of the, you know, all of those things, you will get all of, if we make money on the film, you can have 50% of the profits. I don't care, right? And why do I say that with such confidence? No film I've ever made has made money. So maybe, you know, I'm allied to Pinocchio, but even then it's Netflix. I don't know if it's made money. But do you know what I mean? Like I can say, Mary and Max, financial catastrophe, okay? Mary and Max still owes me $157,000 Australian, so from, you know, back in the day. So my films, artistic films made in our home countries, they don't make money, all right? But what a rich lived experience, and money's not everything, right? But owning the copyright, I really, really urge you to make sure it's a difficult conversation to have, but it's about, this is my expertise area. You need to trust me that I will manage it responsibly, okay? And we can talk about prize money and profit and all that stuff off on the side. And again, you don't always have to hire a lawyer. Just write a really clear email to each other, you know? This is what you know, expect, this is what I expect. Right? And if this happens, and also don't just imagine the good things, imagine the bad things. And it's very difficult to do when you're in the beginning stages of the relationship because you want everything to be fantastic. We're going to win an Oscar. It's going to be amazing. Always have a termination clause for when things don't go well. Like I still have a company in Australia I can't close because one of the business partners is unhappy. And so she just won't let me close it. and it's a pain in my ass. It costs me about $2,000 a year just because I have to keep the company books open and blah, blah. And it's just because I didn't put in a termination clause. And so she won't resign as a shareholder, and so I can't close the company. It's just stupid, right? And people can be upset with you for all sorts of reasons. I don't think her reasons are justified, but clearly she does, because it's been years. But, so just, make sure you try and keep things as clean as possible and imagine the good side and the bad side when you're making an agreement with someone. People talk, or especially French people, because they came up with it, droit moral, moral rights. And you don't need to worry about them too much, because basically the French came up with a right of the director, the auteur, to have always a right in the film. But don't worry, excellent lawyers in Los Angeles found ways to just navigate around that. So almost everyone waives their moral right in any way that could have any financial or commercial impact on a project. But notionally, of course, it exists. But it's not something that you need to concern yourself with in terms of the packaging or development of your project. What is a script editor or a developer? And why would you work with one? When you go from working on short films, short films are usually, you set up a set of norms and then you twist it, okay? Most short films, this is, oh my God, have I only got 1 minute left? That is hilarious. Sorry? Okay, all right. I'm so sorry, everybody. Anyone who's interested can come up and find me, and I'll email you the rest of my slideshow, because we've only talked, but this is actually the most important stuff, so I'm just going to continue on with this. A script editor or developer is a person who can help you teach your short film writer-director how to write a feature, okay? And the structural stuff, Robert McKee's story, blah, 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 blah. But having someone who can hold the hand of that talented short filmmaker and help them on a kind of individual, like a tutor level, is really fantastic. And there are some great ones, there are some terrible ones too. So make sure you interview them. It's like finding a therapist. You've got to make sure you like them, right? When is a project ready to pitch? And the answer is never and today. Always. And it's like when it has to go, we have to be ready. What is a synopsis, outline and treatment? What is a finance plan? What is industry standard documentation? Now, Screen Australia, bless them, so we can all thank the great Australian taxpayers because they fund Screen Australia. And Screen Australia, if you have a look at this website, in their section called Doing Business With Us, they have a document library. And in that library, there are fantastic, you're going to have to weave through it, right? It's a bit bureaucratic. But they have Excel budgets with all formulas already in. They have finance plan budgets. They have this fantastic document on what is a synopsis, what is an outline, and what is a treatment, written by the best script editor developer I know, a man called Stephen Cleary. Right? And this is a fantastic resource because people are often like, particularly if you want to present your projects internationally, it's like, what form should I use? And these are they're just Excel documents, but they have all the detail in them. And trust me, the Screen Australia people have made sure that it all is very legitimate. So you'll have to adjust them and change them and put in your own information and stuff like that. But there's such a great resource, especially when the first time you're like, goodness, what does a finance plan even look like, right? And you can just see theirs, and it'll have things that are specific to how an Australian film is funded, but it'll be really, really useful, and so I really recommend that. Okay, so what else was I going to talk about? Because I'm going to let you ask me some questions. Okay, I was going to talk about financing. Oh, this is an important one. Never, 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 never send a script to someone who hasn't asked for it, all right? Can you please put your hands on your heart now and promise me, all right? I want you all to promise me, never ever send me a script. If you send me a script, the first thing you do is you make me angry. Why? Because you're assuming I'm going to give you a day of my time for free. You know? No. Right? You already made me angry. Don't send me a script. Send a synopsis, yes. Never, never, never ask for an NDA, right? Non-disclosure agreement. Don't ask me to sign that. It makes you look like an amateur. It makes you look like you don't trust me. Don't do that to me, and don't do that to yourself, right? Do they want to see storyboards? Only if they ask. Do they want to see mood board? Only if they ask. How much visual material should you share? Less is more, right? Whatever you can produce when you don't have money to make the film yet isn't going to be anywhere as near as powerful as your persuasive words and their imagination. They're going to fill it in with what they want it to be. Let them, right? Don't lie to them, but let them use their imaginative powers. I personally, people are like, oh, I should make a trailer. I'm like, why would you make a trailer when you don't have the money, you don't have the film stars or the talent? It's going to look a bit shit. And then it's very easy to say no to. You want to make your project undeniable. Okay, this is with clear eyes, undeniability, right? You look at your project and you go, why would I say no? I have $1 million and I'm looking at, that's what I want. Why would I say no to this project? Okay, I would say no, not very experienced director. All right, I will acknowledge that. I go talk to the director. I say, look, you're not very experienced. You have no features. Let's have a consultant director. We're going to have to spend a little bit of money on it, but you know, we know Guillermo del Toro. Bad example, but you know, we know Mark Gustafson, and he would do it for, you know, maybe we'll give him $5,000 or $10,000, and he would write his name next to ours, right? And then your first-time director doesn't look like a nobody anymore, right? They look like they could be someone, right? And this is, you look at every single aspect to your project and you find out why it has a weakness, and you find the solution, right? And that's what I mean by undeniability, right? Don't give your script to an actor and say, what do you think? Because they're going to say, it's fantastic, which role's mine, right? Don't give it to your mom. Oh, you know what the best person to give it to is like your aunt, who's got nothing to do with the film industry, you know? And not the script, but you give them the synopsis and you say, does this make sense, right? And you listen to what they say, because particularly your one-page synopsis, it needs to be idiot-proof. It cannot be just only for the artist to read. It has to be absolutely a really clear sense of what you're doing. All right, we're just going to literally flick. Those were the things I really wanted to say. Pre-production, oh, that's really leaning into the psychological safety stuff there. Principal photography, again, it's about, you know, people working together. All right, I'm leaving you enough time to get a picture, all right? But the most important thing is I'm going to show you the last one, which has my email address. So if you miss this, you can email me, okay? And when you email me, what do? You say, hola, Melanie, I was at your talk. My name is blah. Please send me your thing. Because I have a memory like a sieve and I'm perimenopausal. You're actually amazed I actually haven't had a complete memory loss. So thank you all very much. I think we're opening up for questions. Very good. Oh. I'm going to hear you in English, apparently. Is there a question? Hi.
I can say it in English if that's more comfortable to you. First of all, thanks for all the valuable information. I thought it was really good. And my question is, what would you recommend to young aspiring producers for us to make our way into the business? Like, where should we begin, or what should we do to put ourselves out there?
The most important thing is to be doing stuff, you know, and so, you know, when I started in the industry literally 25 years ago, that meant, you know, we didn't have, you know, the phones that can do everything. We didn't have all that technology. So as much as possible, it's finding ways to make things and get attention. You know, we all know, particularly with social media now, it's impossible to get anyone's attention, like, full stop. you know. So what you want to do is find ways to create small-scale projects and then try to get attention. So, you know, start with making a film on a phone and start, you know, scaling up. And one of the things, like a lot of people are like, oh, why should I apply for government funding? Or why should I go to apply for a film festival, like the talents? Or, you know, isn't that just a waste of time? They're all going to tell me stuff I already know. And the answer is no, because as soon as you've had some funding from an agency, or as soon as you've been connected with a festival or something like this, it's like you can put this on your resume, on your CV. And also, those people who work in those places, it's their job to discover talent, remembering they don't want to, right? No one wants you, right? But that is their job. So if you can help them, you know, because once they've funded in you, then they've got an interest in you, and they've got an interest in connecting you to other people and pushing you forward, because they all want to be everyone, okay? This is a great expression. Success has many fathers and failure is a bastard. Huh? So when you are a successful person, well, you have your moments. Trust me, you never actually feel successful. It's just ridiculous that that's the truth, but it's the truth. But when you have this moment where, like, the light is on you, right, everyone is like, you know, I gave her her first break. Oh, you know, I supported her career early on. You know, without me, she would be nothing, right? And you'd go, you don't get angry with them. You don't go, what an idiot. You go, yes, you're so right. Thank you so much for your support, right? Because they did help you, right? Maybe not in the way they say, but they helped you. And this is the thing too, is you'd have to let go of things. When someone bugs you or something bugs you, be like a goldfish, like, hi, right? Even though you pissed me off last week, I'm like, hey, how's it going? You know, let it go, let it go, let it go. Because you can carry, particularly because we're putting our hearts now, everything out there, you know. And when we get rejection, or someone doesn't invite us to something, we get, oh, it's so hurt. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Most of the time it's inefficiency or a bureaucracy, or, you know, your tag goes missing or whatever. You know, literally it's not anyone, it's usually just someone, you know, some communication problem, right? But most of the time it's not personal, so don't take it personally. So is that helpful?
Yeah, it is. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? There's one in the middle too after that. Hi.
Hi. So my question would be, well, you mentioned a lot of things and you summarized a lot of interesting things. What would you consider the most important factors, or that would make you interested in any pitch from the producer side next to the person who's creating the content?
You know, why this story now? You know, that's what everyone wants to know. Why do you want to tell me this story right now? There is something about zeitgeist, you know, this German word, it's in the air, but there is literally, you have to have an answer to that question when you're doing your pitch. You have to have a reason why right now is this film has to be made right now. It's undeniable, because right now is the moment where X, you know? And so if you can have that, right? Because for me, my happy place is when I'm at the Cannes Film Festival pitching projects, right? I love it, right? Because I love pitching, right? This making something undeniable and swaying someone, and you put out the reel and then you pull it in and you go, you know, and you know in your pitch, you know when you got them on the hook. It's like, love it, right? But that's one of the ones that they all want to know. Why this story now? And they want to know who's in it and how much it's going to cost and how much. Also, no one wants to be the first person to say yes. They like to be about fourth, right? Early enough to take credit for it, but not at risk, okay? So you have to find the first person. And whoever they are, even if they give you a tiny amount of money or a foot in the door or whatever it is, they are your champion, and you never forget them. Okay, but no one, the first person to say yes to you, right? But you have to find that yourself, and it's going to be really hard. And sometimes you have to knock on 99 doors before you find that one. But once you've got one, then you get two. Then you got two, then you get three. You know, then it's easier. Then the dominoes start to hit each other. But finding that first one, you know, is tricky. Did that answer you? There was someone in the middle? Is that you? I've not got my glasses on. Hello, darling.
Hello. I want to know, how did you get involved in Pinocchio? How did you get involved in that movie that is like a super production? Yeah. How did you meet Guillermo del Toro? How was that?
So when I moved to Portland, Oregon with my husband, who ended up being the animation supervisor on Pinocchio, for the first 4 years, I was actually really miserable and lonely because I had no work rights, you know, in the US. It was pretty, I managed to still keep my Australian company going, and I managed to produce a feature film, and I spent one whole year, 8 months away from my husband, and I do not recommend that, all right, that was too long. I had heard that Shadow Machine were moving their to Portland, and I tried like 5 or 6 different times to knock on the door, and every time I kind of got, yeah, we're really interested, and then nothing, which is a very American thing. They never reply. I reply to everyone. If you email me, I will reply. Not soon, but I will reply, I promise you. But I hate this American thing when they don't reply. I'm like, you can reply and say you're too busy. You can reply and say no, you know? I say that a lot, but it's like, at least reply. Anyway, so... but when Alex finally arrived in Portland, he looked around, and it's like the number of people who know how to manage a stop motion production in English is like this many. Like literally, probably, that's probably more. Like 10 is probably too many. So he found me, and he was like amazed, and I was like, here I am. And then he was like, but you're Australian, and you don't know anything. And I'm like, well, I kind of have been in the business for 20 years, and I have all these Australian credits, and I haven't won an Oscar, you know, it's not nothing. But he wanted me to prove myself, which is totally legitimate. You know, you've always got to prove yourself. But even from the beginning of that relationship, so Alex Bulkley is one of the producers. So how did Alex and Guillermo meet? Because, so Lisa Henson had the rights to Pinocchio, and she, at the Gris Grimley book, right? And she had got Mark Gustafson and then Guillermo involved, and then Guillermo was like, well, I want Shadow Machine to do the production, and I don't know how that happened. But then, in terms of my own relationship with Guillermo, it's like, he's always like, oh, because I'm the one who comes up and goes, so Guillermo, I need you to do blah, 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 blah. And I'm not a starstruck person at all. So I'm literally like, no, no, no. And he's like, oh, do I have to do that? I'm like, yeah, because all these people are looking up to you, and, you know, you are here in the studio, and if you don't go and say hello to every single one of them after they've been through COVID and blah, 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 you know, I'm going to be pretty unhappy, you know? And he's not used, you know, because I'm not like, oh, whatever you say, and scurry away. No, it's really important to me. And why is it important to me? Because if Guillermo only says hello to half of the workers in the studio, how are the other half feeling? That's going to make my life like shit. And I said that to him, and he said, okay. So he's like, he didn't, because of COVID, and also because he's doing a million things. And just in case anyone's wondering, Guillermo does not accept any unsolicited material. Okay, and just so you know that, like, he's only interested in generating his own work, which is a privileged position that he has, but just so you know, he's not interested in, like, literally not anything, right? And let people know, because they can spend years trying to chase him and get his attention. He's literally working on so many things. He's not going to work on your thing, right? And you just have to get over it, you know, because that's the truth. And even if I could put you in touch with him, he will not read it. His manager will not. He will just tell me, no, 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 no. But If you want him to go and talk at a film event, maybe, but small chance, but, you know. So my relationship with him was when he would come to visit the studio, it was, you know, he really understood that I was like the mother. And particularly during COVID, it was kind of, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, yeah? So he really understood that. And he, when I did my job interview with Netflix and Guillermo down in Los Angeles, I talked about all of these principles that I have, yeah? And my boss, who's very LA, he was like, I could feel him twitching, because he's like, oh, just... And I said to him, Alex, you need me to let me be me, all right? And I have to be me, and Guillermo, and also it was meant to be one meeting with Guillermo and one meeting with Netflix, and then at the last minute, it came together. And Alex was just, she's gonna say something, she's a hippie, it's, you know, la la la. And it was great because Netflix got it, because I am very all about the fiscal responsibility, coming from a place where we were spending taxpayers' money, right? I am not wasting anyone's money. And also all of the things that I'm talking about, all these principles of kindness, is also not about waste. I think that most waste comes from when people are mismanaging things. So, oh my God, I'm having one of my moments. What was it? Oh, Guillermo. It's really terrible, I have to tell you. So I spoke from the heart, and Guillermo said, that's how I want this film to be made. So that gave me great comfort. And I literally, and I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it now, but I literally ran around the table and gave him a big hug. Because for me, it was such a validation in that kind of high-pressure environment. And so, you know, we wanted to make an anti-fascist film in an anti-fascist way. And I think we achieved that. And I think when you watch the film, you can feel the love. You know, 357 people poured their heart into that film, you know, plus the team here in Guadalajara who were amazing, and yeah, the puppet makers in Manchester as well. So I have 0, 0, 0s in front of me, which means I should shut up. Thank you all so much. What a pleasure.